Welcome to Building Hope with Habitat, a show that highlights the many exciting activities and programs of Manatee County Habitat for Humanity. My name is Diana Shoemaker, Executive Director of Manatee Habitat for Humanity. And joining me today is Susie Walters, who helped establish the Manatee affiliate in 1994 and served as the first president of the organization. Also joining us today is Jim Frame, the current president, who participates regularly as a construction volunteer. On today's show, we'll be talking about how Habitat in Manatee County has been effective over the years in helping families to build hope and stability in its mission to provide decent and affordable housing to those in need. Thank you, Susie and Jim, for joining us today.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Susie, you've been there from the beginning when the affiliate first started. And can you tell us a little bit about how Habitat began? Maybe a little bit about where you were building at the time, and how many houses were you building when we first started the affiliate?
Well, when I joined as a volunteer, the affiliate was a bi-county affiliate, and it was a Minnesota affiliate. And what we found was that the majority of the board members and the majority of the activities in the building were occurring in Sarasota. And so the families were having to travel farther to take their courses, and more homes were being built there. So at that time, there was a youth house that was being built and being talked about in Manatee County. And several churches were going to get together, and the youth of the churches were going to build. So they said, we talked together, and several of us, and they encouraged us to be thinking about possibly spinning off so that we would be able to concentrate on just our area, and the families would be able to be attending classes and have their activities in one county rather than traveling as far and being split. So we did what we called a friendly spin-off at that time. And that was our first test house, was this youth house, our youth build. And it worked out very well. And so a group of us got together and formed a steering committee. And Habitat for Humanity International, they sent a rep down and helped us to pattern ourselves after several other affiliates and get all the proper things in place, like bylaws and all the things you have to do to become a 501c3. And at that time, too, we were gaining momentum as far as spreading the word that we wanted to do our own. And so we went from there and had a meeting over at St. Joseph's Church, and asked, put an ad in the paper and asked people to come if they would be interested in some facet of Habitat for Humanity. And lo and behold, about 50 volunteers showed up. And what was so interesting about it was that they split off into different interests. So it wasn't just, everyone wasn't there just for construction. There were people that were interested in helping to provide courses for the families and help mentor them. There were some people that were interested in the fundraising part. There were some that were interested in being, I could be a speaker and talk about what you're doing. I could provide refreshments. I can't build. So we went from there, and our first house was sponsored by Kiwanis Club of Bradenton and their high school affiliate that is associated with them, the Key Club. And we went from there and built 4 houses in our first year. Wow. And we were all volunteers at that time. Wow. No executive director, no office help. Someone donated an office, and so I spent a lot of time in that office making a lot of phone calls. It turned out that designated me to be the steering committee chair, and then ended up being president, and we went from there.
So it really was a grassroots effort right from the start.
Absolutely,
Right.
yes, very grassroots.
And for a lot of years, it remained that way. Is that true? Volunteers
Yes.
really supporting it?
Yes,
and
for,
keeping...
for a very long time.
Right,
It was amazing. And volunteers not only, again, in the building area, but volunteers such as the attorneys that drafted the bylaws. And to this day, I know that there are a lot of people that volunteer when we have a closing. The attorneys will volunteer their time. We have an attorney, I don't know if the affiliate still does that, but at some point the family would go to their own volunteer attorney, find out about all the legal considerations or whatever, and the attorney would prepare them for the closing so that they felt like they had their own attorney as well. And just so many volunteers in many, many aspects.
Right. So there's lots of ways that people were involved in Habitat right from the start.
Yes, for
And
sure.
18 years later now, we're still active in the community, still grassroots basically, but Jim, volunteers are still play an active role in the affiliate. Is that not true?
Every aspect of our Habitat affiliate, it would not be able to function without volunteers. We do have paid staff, obviously. I think there's a critical mass you get to if you're going to build houses at a certain level. You do have to have some professional staff. But I mean, the people that really make the operation work and the people that really make it feel like the family that it is are the volunteers, because they're not getting paid, but they're putting in the hours. I mean, I think of some of the volunteers who I see on the construction site 3 days a week, and I'll go into the office on an off-construction site day, and they're in the office working and helping out in the office, or at the restore, one of our restores. So yeah, volunteers is a core component of who we are.
Right. Susie, in the very early years, you talked about 4 houses, building the 4 houses, and I know that that was the focus of Habitat. And I want to just check with Jim about how that's changed. I mean, we're building houses still, but what's going on now with Habitat in terms of how has it expanded into the community in different ways?
Well, I think it's a function of the world we live in right now. There's still homeowners that are definitely in need of homes, that are not living in safe communities or in safe homes, and their situation requires an organization like Habitat to build a home for them, and a home that they can afford. But having said that, the needs of the community are such today that there are probably more people who are struggling to stay in their homes. And these are people who, for various reasons, could be physical infirmity, could be financial reasons, are just unable to stay on top of their homes and maintain them. And these people come to us in a number of different ways. They come to us through churches. They come to us through code enforcement that we have a close relationship with in both the city of Bradenton as well as Palmetto. And these are people that are in jeopardy of losing their homes or not being able to get insurance for their homes. So as a consequence, we've opened up a program, or started a program 2 years ago, called A Brush with Kindness. And this program allows us to basically help homeowners stay in their homes. And we can do small projects, which is, painting, exterior cleaning, helping clean up the yard. Still very important to someone who doesn't have the ability to do that for themselves. And it also can include major rehabilitation units where houses, the roofs are in very poor state of repair, leaks, air conditioning not working, doors, windows not working. And these are all things where we bring through our volunteers the expertise, the project expertise. But again, it's the partnering with the volunteers and the homeowners to help get them in a better situation.
Let's talk about the homeowners. That's the essence of Habitat. It really is about helping families in need. Susie, I bet you have lots of stories and memories of families that were impacted by Habitat over the years that you were involved. Can you think of anyone in particular, any situation in particular that kind of sticks out for you as the way Habitat made a difference in a family's life?
Well, I have to say that when we were discussing Habitat before we had this time together, you had mentioned success and be thinking about some of the successes. And I have to say that I would say that every family that has lived in a home, a Habitat home, or has participated in your Brush for Kindness and done their part of the expectations you have with them are successes in themselves.
Right.
They really are. And often when they're preparing for home ownership, they need to get their credit problems cleaned up, that we can't expect them to pay a mortgage that they'll be paying Habitat for Humanity at no interest, but still they're paying a mortgage if they're owing in other ways and they can't be able to afford that mortgage. And so they work very hard at budgeting and getting their life in order and their priorities in order as far as what they want to or have to spend their money on. And so I think that's the case in many cases. As far as success, I can't help but think about our first family, and she was working in a processing plant, and we were so excited that she was a single mom.
Is this Hilda?
And this is
Yes,
Hilda,
Hilda
yeah.
Fox,
And raising her own child as well as a family member's child, and she had everything in order, and just I can't remember if it was, I think it was just within weeks of purchasing her home, she was laid off.
Oh.
And this is a job that she had had for years and years and years. And I can't help but think that the confidence that she built in herself as she was building that house and relationships with people helped her to get the confidence to pick herself up and to start her own business. And she ended up starting her own business and has done very well, didn't miss one mortgage payment, just picked up and is doing great.
Right. And I'll let you know,
So-
she's also still involved with Habitat.
Oh, that's great.
Family
Family
Services.
Services Committee, she's involved.
Advisory board.
Yes, so she's been very active with us ever since. So
well,
that is a
that's-
true success story. Because really joining Habitat and becoming a Habitat homeowners, sort of like joining a family. You know, we talked about the educational process. You know, from the start they're with us in terms of education and home ownership. They're paying the mortgage to Habitat. So it really is an ongoing relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jim, how about the success stories that you've seen since you've been working with Habitat? Anything in particular kind of stand out for you, or how it's impacted on somebody's life?
I think, as Susie said, to echo what Susie said, everybody who comes through our program is a success story. And there are examples of successes that you could reach out to. You can talk about children that finish high school and go on to college that might not have had that opportunity or might not have succeeded if they hadn't had affordable and safe housing. And then there's also people of homeowners that have started off working in a certain profession, and then by virtue of some of the classes and education that they've received, have decided to try and kick things up a notch, to try and go perhaps to a community college, in some cases a four-year college, and get a degree, and alter again their lifestyle and their ability to be able to afford their home and take care of their families. So I'll tell you one family that I think we would all agree. I've never been to a mortgage burning before. And it wasn't our first family, but I think they were one of the families in the first year, the Poole family. And when we had that mortgage burning ceremony, when they made their last payment, I mean, that was just absolutely amazing, because we could see the growth of their children, the growth of their families. Their children had married and had their own children, and the one thing I think that's amazing, that's transformational, particularly in the New Home program, is the children of these parents who have worked so hard to get into these homes. Their expectation is that they're going to live in a home when they get out on their own. And they get an understanding of just what's required, how much education you've got to have, how much money do you have to earn, how carefully do you have to manage your debt in order to have that opportunity someday. And I think if there was a measurement that I would be most proud of, it would be the children of our families and what they go on to do with their lives.
Great, great, that's great. Working hard to get into a home, you mentioned that. What are some of the things that a family does to prepare to be in a home in preparation?
Well, I mean, I think Susie pointed out, obviously they have to have the ability to repay.
Right.
The other, I think, aspect, which is kind of classic Habitat, is the sweat equity. And this is a requirement that says they have got to put in their own time and their own sweat to try and help other homeowners get into their homes, as well as put in time and effort to prepare their own home for them to occupy. They also have the educational component. They need to learn about homeownership. Homeownership, if you've always known homeownership in your life, then you realize that there are some aspects of maintaining your home, watching out for certain things, not simply the building, but making sure your mortgage payments, watching your interest, making sure you get the homeowner exemption, homestead exemption if you're a Florida resident, wind mitigation for keeping your insurance costs down. These are all things that they learn, and they're not intuitive unless you've owned a home for some period of time. So I think that preparation I think is probably kind of summarizes a lot of the aspects of it.
Right.
Diane, I have to tell one little story. When we were starting the new affiliate, we met with some of the homeowners that had been in homes, such as the Pools and some other families that had been in homes for a little while. And I asked them, I said, what is one of the premier things that you feel like you have gained? And one man stopped and thought for a few minutes and said, you know, one of the things that I'm the most thankful for is that if something breaks, like my toilet, I don't have to wait for my landlord to fix it. I pick myself up, go down to the store, and fix the toilet. and you could tell the confidence that he had built and the pride and ownership that he wasn't going to let that be carried on. He was just going to take care of the problem himself. And I think that says a lot. And one other thing that I think is in thinking about successes of families, with the families not having to pay as much, let's say really high rent, often the case is that they can save a little money and be able to afford to pay some money to do continuing education or some type of course that they wouldn't be able to do if they were having to sink it all in to a high rent. And so I think that is another a benefit and has contributed to the success of a lot of our homeowners.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it sounds, and we all know that Habitat is, there's work involved. It's not a giveaway program. We don't give away homes to potential homeowners. It's a real, we partner with the homeowners. And so partnership is a kind of an essential concept that we have at Habitat, about partnering with families, partnering with the volunteers. How about partnering with the community? In the early days, Susie, who were some of the major partners that you had that really kind of helped Habitat along? You mentioned churches at one point.
Yes, so many of our homes were built through home sponsorships. And so you were talking about churches, and the Presbyterian churches have gotten together and have built homes. There's so many different groups that have gotten together and sponsored homes. One relationship or partnership that's a little bit more unique, although each one seemed like they were unique in themselves. My goodness, the realtors, some businesses. I hate to start naming names because I'm afraid I'm going to forget someone. But one of our partnerships was with the CRA, and I think you can talk about a current partnership you have now. But when we were we were building homes in isolated lots, except for in some cases we might be building 2 or 3 together. And we found that when we were building them close together in proximity, the impetus seemed to be even greater and it seemed like it impacted the neighborhood even more, the more houses you built in one area. And so we looked at a tract of land in Palmetto, and we heard that the CRA over there was doing a competitive process where they wanted to find a group that would do some building of affordable homes in that particular area. And so at that time we went and did a presentation and was chosen over the other groups. And I think one of the main things that distinguishes us from the other groups is we did a presentation where we showed them 4 pictures of 4 homes at different ages. And there was one that was just 2 years old, there was one that was 8 years old, and asked them to pick which one they thought was the oldest. And believe it or not, there were 7 different opinions on which home was the oldest, which I think sold them on the idea that, again, pride in ownership and quality building, that we were really going to do a good job at that. Right. And so we went in together, and they contributed a large sum toward the purchase of the property. And it became the Village of the Palms. Great. Mm-hmm. And so that was a wonderful partnership, right. And it turned out we built many homes in Palmetto, and I think it has been a great partnership. And actually all the entities working with Manatee County government, and in the days where SHIP money was readily available, we certainly have worked with this State Initiative Trust. Gosh, I can't remember what that acronym is. I should right now, and I know I shouldn't use acronyms that I can't remember what it stands for. But
well,
those
SHIP
funds
was a support to the homeowners in the mortgages, helping
right,
to
for their down payment assistance.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But,
good. So communities were being built at the time, and with the Village of the Palms, that was one of the first communities that built it. And now we're at Hope Landing, aren't we, Jim?
Yep.
With another next community.
And in between
right.
that, we did another community right. in Palmetto called Washington Park. But yeah, we're at Hope Landing right now. Actually, Hope Landing represents our 102nd home Correct. Completed, and 103rd and 4th, hopefully within the next 30 days. And it's, again, we talk about partnership. I mean, we simply could not have developed this community of 18 homes without partnerships. Partnerships with neighborhood services, community development, block grants. I mean, all of these things made the infrastructure possible. And partnerships with our volunteers, partnerships with the trades that work with us very, very closely. I mean, there's some things we are not licensed to do, and those things in terms of construction we pay somebody to do, but they work so closely with us, and they give us such an amazing, a bang for our buck in terms of what they produce for us versus what they charge us. And Hope Landing also is a very unique community in a number of respects. But one of the things I think we're really proudest of, and I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself, but it's our first green build community. And by green build, we're talking about affordable green build, a home that essentially has walls that are at least 200 miles per hour strong against wind. We've got roofs that are guaranteed for like 30 years, exteriors that are guaranteed for like 30 years. We have solar, thanks to Florida Power and Light. I do have to acknowledge their participation. They've agreed to put solar water heaters on all of our homes. So this is another way to not only produce a more sustainable home for our owners, but also a way to be more, I guess, more environmentally sensitive and try to be good stewards of the land and property that we have.
So really, Habitat all these years has addressed the needs of the community and the homeowners in changing ways. Mm-hmm. From the very beginning, when families were in substandard housing and needing homes, stable homes. Now, all these years later, doing the same thing with a little different twist on it, green,
mm-hmm.
To keep it affordable.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal, to keep it affordable. So, any other thoughts that you have on Habitat that you want to share with us today? We're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. I want to make sure we've covered everything that you wanted to share about Habitat. Anything I missed in terms of sharing a little bit about the history or current situation in Habitat?
I think that when we were talking before about the impacts, the thing that comes to mind first is the children of the families. And I think I met one of our new homeowners, and she was talking about her son and how her son came home with his report card, and he'd gotten a whole bunch of A's, but he knew, she's not even in a home yet, but he knew that those grades were important to her because they generate sweat equity hours. And at the age of 9 years old, he's helping his mom mom and dad get into a new home.
Great, great. Susie, any other last thoughts you want to share?
Well, I think that have you mentioned the resale stores?
We haven't yet, but the restores. Right.
I think that's an interesting concept
Right,
that I think
right.
is, again, a new development that you just were getting into when I stepped back a bit.
Right.
So I don't know if you all would want to talk about
Yeah,
that.
just
or
briefly,
not,
we've got
but-
2 stores, resale stores that help support our affiliate and help us build homes. So.
And I don't know if we have time, but they do offset, they do help provide offset expense to the expenses we have for staff and operational, and it assures that basically the money we get from our donors go directly to projects as opposed to staff and operational expenses.
That's true.
And they keep stuff out of the landfill.
That's exactly
they keep
right.
things from being
That's
thrown
exactly
away
right. So
and
it's-
reused.
Yeah. So, well, I want to thank you both for being here. Our guests Susie Walters and Jim Frame for their willingness to share their insights and experiences. Thank you also to all you viewers for joining us today to learn more about Habitat for Humanity in Manatee County and the impact it has and made and will continue to make in our community. We hope you will join us for our next show when we'll explore how Manatee Habitat builds green and learn about sustainable homes that can also be affordable for families. Join us next time for Building Hope with Habitat.